You can start a growth venture, but what is it that you have to put together? A team. And where are you going to find a team of experienced people? What do I also see in all the business plans I get from students? Who's on the team? Their buddies, other students. And you sit there and go, hey, great. Who is it that you want on that team if you don't have the experience? Because young entrepreneurs can start growth ventures, but they have to team up with people who are experienced in an industry. Well, how are you going to find these people? How do you go out and find these people? Exactly. Again, how do you find these people? You find these people by networking. And how do you network? Well, not only do you need credibility, you need to have a network within the industry. And how do you build a network within an industry? What's the easiest way? Is you work within an industry. And then you start to find who are people who could be your advisors, who could be mentors, who could be partners, who could work with you. You're going to find out who are your potential customers. And in fact, you may even know who to call on within that company as your potential customers. You'll know the suppliers, you know the bankers who work in that industry, and you know the investors. Could you do this on your own? Sure. But it's going to take you time, it's going to take you a lot of effort, and how much money are you going to be making while you got your business started and you're trying to network and make all these connections? It's going to take you a long time, and your business is going to go nowhere. So what's the better way to do it? Pick an industry, get a job, start to network, start to learn, start to make your contacts, start to build your credibility. You're more likely to come up with a better business idea. You're more likely to be able to get money because you have experience either from banks or from investors, and you'll be able to put together a team at some point. And especially in this day and age, given the environment, the last thing you want to do is put together a team because it's too expensive before you have customers. So what happens when you're going to try to raise money and the investors say, where's your team? Well, I don't have a team. Well, when you're networked in here, you end up having a virtual team. You have a bunch of contacts, people who would be willing to come to work with you if you ever get this thing off the road. Here's an example for you. Real guy, Fred, friend of mine, was in the cosmetics business. Sold his business for 30 million bucks. And the reason he sold his business for that much money was there's a little thing in there that you have to be a qualified vendor. You need a certificate. And they don't give those out anymore. So there's a woman who started a business out in California. She was trying to break into the business. She bought the company for that certificate. So there's another example for you of somebody who really didn't have enough experience in the industry to know that, so her business was sitting there doing nothing for several years because she couldn't get this certificate. Luckily, she had a lot of money. And she was surviving, found Fred, said, okay, I'll buy your business. What you wanted was a certificate, so he just sold it off. So even though he had 30 million bucks and you figure, well, he'll just go out and party, he said, no, I want to start a new business. And his idea was he wanted to go into real estate. So here's a guy who's about, I think at the time he was probably about 47 years old, 30 million bucks in his back pocket. What did he do? He took a job. In fact, it was a non-paying job. He went to a senior person in the real estate field and said, I want to work with you and I'll work for free because I want to learn the real estate business. And then after he got that experience, he now has a multi-million-dollar real estate business. What he figured out how to do was to go around and site locations for CVS. So he goes around and tells CVS where a good place is to set up a store. I have no idea how his business is doing now, haven't talked to him. But here's a guy who's had a lot of industry experience, has had a lot of experience as an entrepreneur. What's the first thing he does when he tries to start a business? He gets a job. So something for you to think about. Okay, number 2, don't hire. I've already told you, less than 2/3 of new employer firms survive the first 2 years. One of the riskiest things you can do is to hire somebody. What is the cost of an employee? What is the cost of an employee to you as an entrepreneur? You know it's more than just a pay scale. So this is a full-time employee, because you get around this. People get around this by hiring part-timers, getting these networks, getting interns, co-ops, consultants, a whole bunch of stuff. But this is, you know, you've hired a full-time employee. So you got all your insurances, you have your taxes, you have whatever benefits you're going to give, health care, dental, vacations, holidays. Then you're going to have training costs. You're going to have a place to put them. You're probably going to have to move out of your basement for your office to actually get something, phones, equipment, computers, whatever. If they're doing traveling, travel expensive. If they're salespeople, you're going to have to support them. And one of the biggest things, sort of mentioned, it's not training, it's your management, your time. What do you have to do now? When you were working by yourself, you spent 100% of your time on your business, getting customers, making things happen. What happens when you hire somebody now? You've got to manage the person in most cases. So what happens to your productivity? Your personal productivity goes down. So one of the things you got to think about when you're hiring somebody, do you try to hire real cheap? Because what happens if you hire somebody real cheap? You're wasting more of your time, and then they're likely to quit, or they're going to be less effective, and you're going to be caught up. I mean, the cost of an employee get to be tremendous on your time, as opposed to what happens if you pay more. You should get in, hopefully you're smart enough to get a more experienced person with that. That person will stay longer, and you need less management time to be able to look out after that person. I pay for co-op students to go out on co-op jobs with startup companies. And we have a lot of those companies, even though I pay most of the salary, won't hire the co-op students. I'm sitting there going, what? I'm paying, it's free body. They go, we can't afford the time. We can't afford the time to show the person where the bathroom is, how the filing system works, how this stuff. Can't afford it. So even though the person is free, we're not going to hire the person, which was a little bit of a surprise to most of the students. Had one girl get a job at a fashion women's shoe store on Newberry Street, high-end shop. And they have to come back afterwards and tell us how it went. She was like all upset, saying, you can't believe what happened. I show up to the job. Nobody's there. Newberry Street. I can't remember the name of the company. I'll think of it. Women's shoes go over my head. I stopped wearing them. Gets on her cell phone. Calls up the owner. Owner says, oh good, you're there. Open up the shop. The key is under the plant in front of the building. So she looks, there's the key. Opens up, says, run the store. So, well, I don't know how to sell shoes. I don't know your inventory. I don't know how to work the cash register. I don't know your systems. I don't know anything. Says, don't worry, you'll figure it out. Run it. And that was the extent of help this owner could provide to this co-op employee. I was paying most of her salary. So she was all upset, and I said, you gotta be kidding me. This is the greatest experience in the world. What happens if you totally screwed up? Big deal. You're running a business on your own with total freedom, and what's the downside to you for screwing up? It goes to the owner. So you missell something, you ring it in wrong, you do whatever, who cares? So, bottom line here, the cost of an employee is much higher than you think.